Sup, man?
There's Dan impersonating someone. Are you taking Victor's place today?
Yes. I'm my daughter's got tournaments that started this morning at 10 a.m. So
excellent.
Yeah, so she's they got a break right now in between games, and she will be playing at 1 o'clock. So right after this call, they'll be jumping back in.
So my daughter played soccer, and one of the problems with soccer, which may be similar to softball, is you'd go to these cities and you'd be playing at these different parks all over because there wasn't a facility. So in Riverside, Public Utilities donated a complex big enough to have like 15 soccer fields in one place.
Wow, that's awesome.
The parents loved it because if you had multiple kids, you just kind of parked your car or your RV. They let RVs park and just sat there for the day. You didn't have to jump from, game one's at this park, my other kid's playing at this park. And it was really cool.
That is cool.
And it became a moneymaker for us because we had 2 big tournaments every year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so 2 things. One, where we played in Cedar Point in Sandusky, it's called Sports Force, and it's I don't even know how many millions they have into it, but it's a beautiful facility, and that's all they do is tournaments. But the fields are configured that it's softball, baseball, or softball, baseball, soccer, and what is the other sport that I'm thinking of that's big? Lacrosse. Thank you. So
is it like Field of Dreams, where the baseball fields look like professional stadiums? They have the bat. Isn't that cool?
Kind of. I mean, what they have is beyond the fence. It looks like a fence that they built, but it's all like corn. So it looks like a fence of corn. So Field of Dreams from that perspective, and which is pretty cool. But
ours is actually called Field of Dreams in California, and they'll have like a mini Wrigley Field, a mini Yankee Stadium. So that's what you're playing in. And then they have indoor soccer, which is real popular. And in the middle of it is overpriced pizza joint, so you can have your team party. And the other half is a sports bar for the dads. So you could park. Yeah, you could park there all day for all the tournaments and sit there and watch your, high school, college games and have a few beers and yell at umpires when you're drunk. And it makes for a good family event.
Yeah, and I suspect that facility was expensive because every field is AstroTurf, or it's which is not cheap, and but it's $17 to get in. I mean, that's like going to a professional game.
Yeah, ours was pretty expensive. They actually held and it sounded stupid till we played. It was really fun. It was a fundraiser for like cancer or something, and you had to make a kickball team, a company kickball team. So remember kickball from like elementary school? Yeah, and guys were out there dead serious. I mean, they, we were, there was like, guys, are you a professional kickball player? I mean, it was like, but it was fun.
That's cool. Well, we have a facility in our community, in our township, that it's been there for decades, and it's really nice. I mean, as far as the number of fields they have, but it's cramped, parking sucks, and a grocery store this is more than 10 years ago, they had said that what they wanted to do is buy where the fields are, and then they were going to build a grocery store there, and in exchange they were going to build a $5 million facility to replace it, which would have been a state-of-the-art facility, and which would have been incredible. But people who lived behind the baseball park opposed it for obvious reasons because they didn't want a grocery store in there where a baseball field would be, and it ended up being shut down. I mean, there were death threats to board members of the Little League. I mean, come on. So craziness.
Yeah.
So how's everybody doing today? Everybody doing good?
Sean had a huge breakthrough the other day. By the way, I just want to share this before the meeting starts. Sean and I had lunch again this week.
There was no food. There was no lunch.
And at the end of the meeting, he says, and we could ask Nikki if we need to get her online to verify. He goes, "I love you, Dad."
Sean, are you ever going to live that down, my friend?
I don't know there's nothing I can or cannot live down here, Dan. There's ramblings of a man that doesn't know what's going on, and I just.
Well, you know what is funny is on Wednesday when you talked about him just some crazy man rambling on, I'm thinking, do any of us actually know if Keith is in IT? He could be just some random guy that's joined our call over a year ago, has nothing to do with IT, and just thinks this is cool.
I mean, right, he has nowhere better to go. Like it's like all those stories of people that, and actually it's perfect where he lives because there's tons of stories of people that just drop their parents off in California because they'll protect the crazy homeless people. So that's like, so yeah.
Well, I have to hurry up because after this I have a call for psychologists and then another group.
Am I the only one that's a little disturbed about the idea of Sean calling Keith daddy?
Yeah. Well, what I'm nervous about is, what Keith is doing is he's talking about, I've got a psychology appointment right after this, just to throw us off. Like, it's funny, but he probably really does.
So I was there when the bouncer ejected him from the ASCII in Anaheim, and I got to say he was very gracious about it. Somebody that found out he's actually he's a Santa in the Christmas season, and then he hangs out, in different groups. Yeah. He also pretends to be an auto mechanic, and if I remember correctly, a Formula 1 driver. So that's it.
And he's like the people from Fight Club. If you ever saw the movie Fight Club, where they just go to all the random meetings.
Likes the meetings.
Like a wedding crasher. Yeah. I'm sorry, Norm, go ahead.
Next season, we'll probably see him on the sidelines of the Cowboys.
I have been there.
Well,
I've definitely.
Chuck is seeing at in the Broncos box there, right down by the field.
Right.
Wait a minute.
And whatever he does, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, he is amazing." Because he pretends like he doesn't know how to sell stuff, but he knows what he's talking about. And then he's going to go and be on the sidelines of the Cowboys, like Norm said. And people, well, no, wait a minute. Wasn't it Kramer from Seinfeld it was Kramer that there was a couple things. One, he was a fill-in for like the Oscars or something. And when the group of people next to him were going up to receive their award, he got like mixed into the group. So he went up there and got his award and pretended like he won an award. So
that's Keith. Leonardo DiCaprio will play Keith in a movie somewhere.
Thank you.
It's all about the confidence, right? You just have to look like act like you belong.
That's right.
Right.
I actually have showed Sean, I think, that I've watched a couple games from the Cowboys sidelines.
Yeah.
And been on the scoreboard.
Well, that's because he walks around randomly. They're like, "Oh, poor grandpa. Just let him go where he wants to go." Like he's like, "I belong here." They're like, "Of course you do. Let me go get you something to eat, buddy. Okay, just sit here. I'll get you a blanket."
That's what's hurt is COVID's really hurt because your meetings used to be in public with free coffee and food.
He's a professional crasher.
Right.
So
but is he crashing?
Right. He learned very early on, fake it till you make it, and he's still doing it.
I mean, by the way, when you're old and senile and gray, You can get in. You can get into any wedding
That's
because no one asks the old guy whose party. You just walk around and hug kids, and they just fall for you.
Oh gosh, I wish I didn't have a rule about politics, because my mind just went to a funny political joke that I could have thrown in there, but we'll save that for a conference.
Isn't that in the movie Forrest Gump? That's what the guy does.
Yeah.
He kind of shows up in these important moments. You know?
Oh yeah.
Sees way through the entire thing. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, let's get started, everybody.
By the way, we seriously have a pretty political issue going on right now with one of our clients.
Oh,
And
anyway, Keith.
America First, is that what it's called, or First America? I don't. It's Gantz and someone that's more. Anyway, the speakers that got kicked out of Orange County, First America First, they moved them to the Riverside Convention Center, and the Riverside Convention Center is going to host it Saturday night, and it's causing quite an issue between can the city quash free speech? And I don't want to get into a large, but and I go, luckily we don't have to work that event. We just put in an IT line to the production thing and leave.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's really, I'm glad we're not sitting there the whole time running the event, because I don't know what I would actually do.
Right. Yeah, because then you don't know if it's going to happen or not, right?
Well, you can't win. It's whether it's 50-50, the split in the country, or 51-49. It's pretty close to even. So you're going to piss off half the people.
Right.
No matter which decision you make.
What kind of temp services do you have to set up for the event?
Yesterday I was there for a different event, which was Amazon, not politically charged. And the police were actually, doing a site survey and, deciding where to stand on the roof with and I'm going like, this scares me.
But were you doing a Wi-Fi deployment for
this one? Just hardwired to the, it's going to be video fed. It's broadcast on some, it was Newsmax that signed our contract. Newsmax is sending a crew out, and they just wanted 2 guaranteed VLANs for them to do video broadcast. Luckily, I can set it up and be out of there at 2, and the event doesn't start till 6. I could be safely at home having a cigar, pretending like I don't know what's going on.
So they already have internet in place. You just have to set up some VLANs on the network for their piece of it.
Yeah, that I've talked about this before, and I don't want to. It's a hospitality thing where you monetize VLANs, Wi-Fi, and wired networks.
Okay.
Yeah, and you compound that with like a media company that does rent screens, projectors. Any of you that ever done, Sean probably knows. You go into those places and say, I want a projector or a screen for a conference, and they charge you for 2-day rent. You could have bought one. Seriously.
Well, yeah, they always charge, even when people do monitors and TVs, they'll charge you per day to have a monitor $400 or $500, maybe even $800, depending on what the conference is and where it is. It's absolutely, that's why you see a lot of companies, a lot of vendors will do TV giveaways, because they'll buy it for you to you can buy a 42-inch or a 50-inch television for like $400 or $500 also, and then treat it as your giveaway.
Yeah,
I've done that before. Yeah,
capitalism right there. That is flexible, reactive capitalism at its best.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, if you want Wi-Fi, or if you ask for your own Wi-Fi booth in your booth, it's going to cost you like $5,000 for 2 days, 3 days. So it's like, it's ridiculous.
So Keith, where are you getting the internet from, right? So my partner is from the AV world, so he knows exactly what you're talking about. He's been talking to me about monetizing the internet access, because he comes from a hotel environment where it's like $15,000, $25,000 for, you know, a multi-day, 3-4 day event with internet, and the internet's super slow. It's like 10 meg, right? I mean, it's not even like necessarily high speed. But where are you getting the internet from at these places, right, that you're monetizing?
What
So-
the conference? It's through the hotel, the conference center, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
The convention
So
center. That's what it's through.
you walk into like a hotel or a conference center. You normally have to convince them to up their bandwidth because they're under, and then it's a revenue split. So on reselling the bandwidth specifically, Dan, is it okay if I dominate the call? I'm sorry, I don't know if you have to talk about. Okay.
No, go for it.
So normally they get the greater share of that because they're paying, you know, for the fiber connection, whatever, to the hotel. And then on the labor deployment side, the revenue split flips. So in Sean's example, roughly you pay for wired connection about $1,000 a day, depending on where our facilities, which facility we're supporting. And the hotel will get the majority of that. But then we charge setup fee or the labor related, which is our fees. It's not just, you don't just rent bandwidth. If you look at the bill, it's itemized. Setup fee, VLAN fee. And then you can go further with Wi-Fi to where, let's say I'm going to pick on OIT VoIP. OIT VoIP decides to be the sponsor level at a conference. They can own the Wi-Fi. So normally, let's say you put in a credit card for $30 a day to upgrade it from the crappy one meg that doesn't even let you get email that's free. We can now tell Sean, we'll only charge you $20 a day per person that upgrades, and we'll run your banner. So there's some advertising you can do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could also sell it to the conference where I could sit there and say, I can put in announcements to everyone that has an active device, not just that logged in, that has a device that registered on our radios that says, go to the main boardroom at 1 o'clock. Josh Lieberman's doing his presentation on XYZ. Now, if Josh is over there selling books or, you know, something, I could say, Josh, I'm gonna charge you to make a special, besides the banner announcement, I will put up something like, remember to stay and buy the Josh Lieberman book. So there's a lot of ways to monetize it. It's mostly done on revenue splits. And that's
So
what's
here's the
common.
thing. Does
Let me ask you
does the hotel not have their own IT people that can do that instead of bringing you in?
I don't know. Does there?
Yeah, they do. They do.
Most of them don't because they don't need it. If you, on the side of this, you walk in and say, "I'll pick up your whole IT." At an added. How many if you look at a hotel staff that is actually an office staff, not you know, the cleaning staff, the people that need computers in a big hotel is a very small network.
Mm-hmm.
20 to 25 people.
Right.
And if you could deliver a self-serve Wi-Fi with a you know, support desk, you can do it better than their IT people. And I had a client who kept wanting to rent an IT guy on staff. We'll pay to have a person on staff. And then she'd get mad and say, why did I pay an emergency fee at night? And I'd always give her my stock answer. You need to plan your emergencies during the business day. So right. I know that's so, right. But that's so for a hotel to have an IT person, it's the same mathematics you do with a small 25-person business.
Well, let me ask you this, Keith. If I think most convention centers or hotels are, you know, probably are well established with a provider like you. What opportunities are there for everybody on the call to be able to try to get into convention business?
Well, first of all, I think your premise is your majors are with there's a big company, something city, that does a lot of the big ones. The small ones are not. And many hotels are using a product called LodgeNet. So
what is it?
LodgeNet.
LodgeNet. Okay.
LodgeNet. And LodgeNet doesn't often have the ad rollers and the capture of data that you can implement with something another more specific monetized. So the value to the hotel is if they want to give you free Wi-Fi throughout there, I could say you have to sign in with your email, Facebook, Twitter, something, right? And then I could redirect pages. So there's an ad roller I could run on that. So if you log into my hotel, if you go to a regular hotel, you just paid your $29 and you drop to the hotel site. That's kind of boring. If you do what we're doing, I could say at 5 o'clock, I'm going to give you a banner that says, guess what? Happy hour downtown 5 to 7. So I can now sell ads to, so that's the big plus. The next thing is, you look at the cost of having internal IT because hotels are 7 by 24 by 365. And when they have a guy sitting there, you go, the cost is way too high. If you have a help desk and a better delivery system, you can bring the cost down incredibly, monetize it for them and make money. The other thing is we found out in the hotels we took over, including small changes, most of those, first of all, there's no such thing as an IT guy, right? There's a help desk guy, there's a server guy, there's a database guy, there's a network guy. And in the hotel environment, a hotel has a choice to either use the Opera suite of POS, spa, all that stuff, or use best of breed. If they use best of breed, you have a whole complexity of integration that if you just know how to integrate programs and create a common folio and do little things like, Sean knows this because he used to travel, a lot of businessmen would take their points and watch a adult movie at night. And they didn't want that appearing on the folio because they turn it in. So we were able to do things like just mask that. In-room movie, and the common one that they bought from LodgeNet would say the name of the movie. So there's a lot of additional services you could do. And then also just consolidating the folio. So if you can do some, and then hotels through their services collect a lot amount of data on trends, and they don't know how to mine it. So the fact that you're more of a generalist as an IT provider that understands the value of this, you can go in there and say, by the way, I can pull out, and when I'll pick on Bob this time, Bob comes and stays, he orders 2 scotches, and he always orders steak. He orders 4 scotches. He orders steak at the restaurant, and he brings his wife, and she gets this spa package. And so next time he makes a reservation for the hotel, I could start popping up to Bob. I said, while you're online, do you want me to make a spa reservation for your wife? And upsell him, and now say, by the way, she gets the tea treatment, and now we're going to give her, let's treat her right. And so you're taking this data that's sitting there and helping them monetize it a lot. And for a guy who's a guest, you're going, that's kind of nice. I've booked my hotel room. I have all my dinners reserved. They already know I want 2 whatever you guys order, 2 non-feathered or 2 feathered pillows. The special thing, I want extra towels. And you come and you go, this hotel loves me. Right. And so
what got me thinking is when you mentioned Facebook, if they have the ability, and obviously it's built into the terms and conditions, that you could have it set up where the redirection page, you have a Facebook pixel on there, you could then use that, right? I mean, because then you could use that to deliver ads on Facebook, redirect, retarget based on those pixels. I mean, that's a huge opportunity, because then as they're walking around the convention center or they're back up in their room, they're flipping through Facebook, all of a sudden they're seeing ads that are based on that redirect because of the pixel. That could be pretty slick.
Yeah, and one of them just did a connection Instagram. I guess Instagram's more cool than Facebook now. I don't know what's cool anymore. Anyway, they take a picture with your drink at the bar, and your next drink is free. So all you have to do is show your posting, but this redirected you as you logged in. It just said, you want to do the Instagram now? It does the thing, opens your Instagram, you take a picture of your drink, show it to the bartender, you got one for free, and they got all kinds of free advertising.
You know, it's funny you said that because the bar downstairs from my office started doing that. You take a picture at the bar and you get a free Jell-O shot. Put it on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
and I think it's, by the way, the last thing, and I'll shut up. The last thing is, I just don't think internal IT people are motivated to help expand the business because they're on the payroll.
Yeah.
But you're going like, I'm going to make, whatever, 80,000 a year, whether this hotel makes money or not.
Yeah, I mean, if they're treated as strictly as a cost center, and they don't view, IT as a profit center in all aspects of their business, then yeah, I mean, that's all it's going to be. But if they really integrate the technology team into their strategic planning, then they can, sky's the limit, right? There's so much that can be done. So let's move on from this topic. I think it's a good topic, but I want to move on from here. Just kind of an interesting thing. I've had, I had my shoulder surgery, January. All the pain that I've had has been rushing back over the last couple months. And so last night, extremely bad, and got a massage. The massage therapist, she has a day job, which she is the office manager for the IT office manager for the county that I was in. And she, she's talking about some other business units that they currently support. And she says, oh yeah, this one township, they don't like us, and they're going to put an RFP out. So there you go. There's an opportunity for you. And, but then we start talking a little bit more about commits. And so now we're going to meet and talk, and, so she can learn a little bit more about, opportunities from that angle. But I just share this just because it's, one of those weird things that, you never know, you never know where networking is going to work, right? You never know where there's opportunities. You go to get a massage, and, you learn that the person that, the massage therapist is actually in IT. I mean, she, I brought up Kaseya and ransomware, and she used, I can't remember some other stuff that she used, but Bob's got a new video. Bob, what is this video on?
It was basic. It's basically about a week or so old, but it's on IT being an expense or value.
Oh, very cool. And so this is something that you're using with the commits companies that you're prospecting?
It's a conversation. It's part of our LinkedIn process. So we do the LinkedIn videos every day, and essentially talking to the CEO, we're basically saying to the CEO, hey, IT has to be a value driver. If all you do is view it as an expense, you're missing half of the equation, blah, blah, blah. Similarly, we have one for the internal IT people. We call this MSP proofing your job, where we say you have to treat IT like, how do you bring additional value to the organization? And not to get back to the conversation, but it actually links in with what you're saying, Dan, is that not only are employees blind to how IT can bring value to the companies, but so are MSPs. There's a lot of MSPs who view the relationship with their clients as, yeah, the lights are blinking, everything is cool. And similarly, when you're out there, Dan, and you're talking, it gets back to that whole always be hiring.
Right.
Always be networking, always be hiring, and not in an outbound, let me tell you all the wonderful things I do in God's hope that you're that 0.5% of people who care, but always be listening to hear hints of either this person could really be a great employee someday, or a client, or just a resource, or whatever.
Exactly.
Hey, Dan, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned Kaseya, and I've missed a couple weeks, but I had an interesting thought the other day. There was a guy that was writing about the aftermath of his experience, and he said he had competitors of his reaching out to him offering to help. And I don't know if you talked about this at all, but for all of us that use an RMM, if we were to have something like our package breached and all of our clients encrypted and needing to recover, are there things that we should be doing now to set up our business so that we could have other staff help us out if our backs are against a wall? Have you discussed that, or?
We haven't, but I think that's that's a great topic. And I mean, I think we all plan and prepare for things, but there are things that we, like in this case, you ultimately you have no control. I mean, you are at the mercy of the vendor, right? And so, I guess.
So my thought was like, there's another shop in town. They're not quite at our level, but if that guy offered and said, hey, I can give you 4 hours a day to help you out of this jam, because that's terrible, and it could have been me.
Right.
Would my environment be in a spot where he could help me?
I've been in that boat before, back when I was IT director of some municipalities, where there was that question, and it wasn't obviously from a cybersecurity standpoint, but it was from that mutual support, and we called them MSAs, mutual support agreements. The problem is that a formal agreement usually has to be very specific towards the resources that will be available, which is then implied very specific to the issue that would have to happen. And unfortunately, especially with cybersecurity, you absolutely don't know what's going to happen or what. Because if it's a credential issue, if it's an encryption issue, if it's a reputation issue, the strategies are a little different. But what I would recommend, and I think I might actually do this myself, is you might want to reach out to some of your competitors and basically say, hey guys, I would like to get together and just discuss if any one of us get into that situation, is it okay to contact the other for some support? And
right.
to basically say, hey, if you ever find yourself in shit creek, call me. I will do what I can to help you. Don't expect me to drop everything and whatever, but I'm also not going to come in. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and I've got a good relationship
yourself.
with the other ones in town, and when they've needed an ISO of something from 20 years ago or something, yeah, I'll dig it out and that kind of thing. But that's different than all of the scripts that we run for the new computer scripts for that client are in this folder, and how do we get them access to that folder so they actually do something if they were re-imaging machines or something like that.
Right.
Kind of that's a little different.
Really a completely different disaster recovery type of scenario, right? A disaster recovery plan through if your RMM is down, right? Is breached, is whatever. Like what are the next steps do we do after that? I mean, I don't think any of us that I'm aware of have that in place, right? But go ahead, Carter.
Well, so I want to understand, like, for those of you that already know that you have other people in town, right? And those people, like, I know that there's a few other competitors in my area, and I'm actually friends with a friend who has worked for me in the past, but currently works for one of my competitors. And so I was with my dad the other day at this northern tool rental in my area, right? And there's like 4 locations, and I'm at one of them just because my dad had given me a ride and he needed to stop by because it was on the way. We go in there and they can't look up my dad, who's like a regular there, and they're having a computer problem. So I sort of like lean over, look at the monitor, see what's going on, and I see that it's like a database issue, right? And so after a little bit of them struggling, I said, it looks like you're having a database problem. I said, I'm actually in IT, which, such and such. And they said, oh, well, we already have an IT company. It's Savant, right? And I said, I know them. I've got a friend over there, and they're my competitor. And I said something like, are they taking good care of you, whatever? And they said, oh, and they started like laying out all these problems that they're having, right? And so I said, well, I know a guy over there. I said, why don't I give him a call? So I call up my friend Taylor and I say, hey, Taylor, I'm over here at one of your clients and they're having IT problems. He says, what? He says, no, you're not, And I said, yeah, I am. I said, here, I'll send you a screenshot, right? And I said, he said, well, they didn't have a ticket on. I said, well, that's okay. I said, look, I'm just giving you a heads up. I said, we're running a tool, and if they're still having problems when I get back, I'll go ahead and try to steal them. And so my question for you is, like, to what other people have said, I'm always trying to keep my eyes and ears open for opportunity. But if I'm basically saying I'm willing to poach a client, right, of someone else, how does that relate? Like, for those of you that are willing to have a conversation, and I'm not saying I'm unwilling, but how do you deal with the fact that you are also competitors? Do you say, like, hey, I'm not going to take any of your customers? Like, what?
Well, I mean,
how are you guys handling competitors?
A friendly discussion. I mean, more of a, I mean, you guys might have all heard the term, and we've talked about, I think, co-opetition. Oh, and Bob just threw it up there. So, co-opetition it's all about, we can be competitors, but we can also work together. And, we've got one of those right now in our market. And we've helped each other out a couple of times, very small things, but something like this could be much more significant. But I think it just comes down to just saying, hey, I'm, in the market, we're providing managed services as well. And I just figured we could get together and meet. And I mean, I've had some other companies reach out to me over the years that wanted to meet. And, we sat down and went to lunch and learned a little bit more about what they're doing, what we're doing. And in a lot of cases, there weren't many overlaps. There's not, a lot of times you're going to have a complete overlap where it's apples to apples, but, sometimes you've got some specialties and, and they're, that, you've got some talent in an area that they don't have and vice versa. And, and then it can just be very mutually beneficial. But, I mean, I think most times anybody that would call me and say, hey, I'm a competitor, I'd love to sit down and meet with you. Of course I'm going to meet with them, because it's a great opportunity to learn, and just find out, where we could potentially work together.
Yeah, and I would piggyback onto what Marnie said. You put boundaries on the conversation. Well, my thought is essentially for the situation like the Kaseya one, where an MSP is completely compromised, they're talking a majority of their clients, then yeah, I'm not poaching that guy. Not that day. I will do what I can. I will dedicate some of my resources. I'm not going to compromise my clients, but I will donate some resources, some of my time, because we're all in this together. If I run into a client that's not being treated properly or whatever, the odds are I will try to offer them a better service. But I'll be very clear on the difference between those two. So I think the boundaries of that conversation is actually true. Now, if an MSP reaches out to me, like somebody was talking about, you need an ISO or an image or something, and of something that's like 30 years old, and they look at me and they go, yeah, you probably have that. No, I'm willing to help them, all that kind of fun stuff. So I think there can be a line that's drawn there. But again, the worst time to learn CPR is when someone's having a heart attack. The worst time to try to have these conversations with other MSPs so we can actually work together in an area where we all might be very willing to do so is while that situation's happening. But Mike, to your point, I think it would be very tough to set up resources so without knowing what the situation is ahead of time, that wouldn't actually turn out to be other ways for the bad guys to get in.
I'd weigh in on your question as well, Carter, which is, sometimes these questions are remarkably simple, which is there any reason you can't take that dialogue that you just asked us and ask your competitor / friend? So when you're having that conversation that Dan described of, hey, we're going to have a conversation between me and the competitor, at one point during the conversation, there's really no reason you can't say, hey, I realize we compete on one hand, we cooperate on another hand. When we are competing with each other and we're going after the same client, or perhaps I run across one of your clients that's unsatisfied with something about it. How should we handle that? and then find out how both sides want to do it. And if they say something ridiculous like, well, you should just leave it alone and not compete with me at all, never take my business away, say, well, that's probably not maybe we're more competitors than cooperation at this stage. But just have the dialogue and say, well, then you have to compete, and if you win, then great, and if I win, then great.
So I did call him to follow up, because I had gone back to that company and to follow up and see if they had been taken care of. And the guy that I'd spoken with the couple of days before was actually on vacation, so I didn't get an update from the person who was in contact. But I called my friend back. He hasn't returned my call. Now that may just be coincidence, but I don't know. I definitely put him on his back foot for sure when I said what I said. Like I'm sure that his jaw had dropped.
Right. Well, Carter, what you just said and what Bob was saying about not poaching, especially like right away at that point, is think about what you did and how you positioned yourself in that situation. You saw that there's an issue. You found out who they're working with, and you're like, hey, I've got a friend there. Let me reach out to them and just see if I can help you, push it along. Well, let's say after that, because what in their brain, they're like, holy crap, look what this guy did. He didn't have to do it. He's not trying to get the business. He's helping me, help me help you with the existing provider. Well, if things continue to go south, who are they going to call? They're going to give you a call, or at least give you an opportunity to bid on it, right? And
they did ask for my contact info. They asked for a card.
There you go, right? And it's not about like being there and saying, hey, I'd like to get this business, because obviously they're not doing their job. It's about, hey, here's what I did. Hopefully this will help, and hopefully that will take care of your scenario. But you just never know where it's going to go. And if they reach out to you and say, hey, Carter, we need to have you come in, it's just not continuing to go well. It's not like you went to them and said, hey, I want to bid on this, right? So from a strain of relationship, your friend might be, still be a little upset, like, hey, what the hell are you doing? But in your case, you're just saying, hey, I didn't go to them and, try to get the business. They came to me and said, hey, we're bidding. So either I bid on this or somebody else is going to get the business, right? And but yeah, having those, like Bob was saying, is, having those conversations well in advance before an issue happens is solid. But I think we could think through what are other scenarios where we might need another MSP. I saw a posting just a couple of days ago that someone said that I can't remember what it was, that they're down a person or something, and they just need someone to fill in some hours, just some extra hours. And did anybody else see that posting?
There's a guy saying he's basically a one-man shop.
That's it.
I'm looking to fill up some time. There's always situational and conditional stuff, and you can always come up with, and you can also basically say West Coast, East Coast, or even overseas to take care of it from an hours of service. Or you can look at it from a specialized standpoint. There's always opportunities, like say co-opetition. There's always opportunities for us to take advantage of each other's resources in an appropriate way when we talk about it ahead of time.
Exactly.
Yeah, when I was starting out, I worked with another MSP after I left my day job, and but it was very clear. They had their clients. They gave me access to the documentation for those clients, and I assisted those clients. And when I answered the phone, I answered with their greeting. And that was that. But the piece they had in place is they stored everything that they had in SharePoint. And so they just went down the list of the clients that I was going to handle and gave me access to everything, all the creds and everything through SharePoint. And then same thing, they were using Screen Connect. So they went through those clients and gave me access to those clients in Screen Connect. Thinking of ourselves in a disaster like that, like I run Screen Connect and Central. So if I needed to take remote control of clients and one whole platform was down, I'd have the other. But I would have to figure out how do I give permissions to somebody willing to help out, and do I say, okay, I need help with this large client, and then give them permissions there, and then give them permission to the client folder and that.
I think some of it comes down to also is just finding competitors that might have that are using similar tools, just for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, an RMM is an RMM is an RMM. You know, we can figure it out, right? If we haven't used it before, but we want to be efficient and be able to provide quick and efficient service to their clients. So the more that we can have some commonality of tool set, the better. But just having a plan, like having that disaster recovery plan. I mean, hopefully we never have something like that. I mean, I think there's a couple scenarios. There's the full-on disaster where I mean, there were clients down for what, 10 days, 12 days, and I think, holy crap, how in the world would you handle a situation like that? I mean, I guess the one thing is, are there, do you go to the route of having some kind of a backup RMM? It's like, I mean, I guess in the world of attacks, that if something were to happen, I mean, I don't know. Do you go that route?
Is that doubling your exposure, Dan?
It potentially could. Yeah. It could.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, well, I had ConnectWise, which didn't get compromised. I had Kaseya as my backup, and then I got compromised from my backup, and now I'm hosed, right?
That's the way I feel about having Screen Connect and Central, but Screen Connect works just so much better than Central.
But no matter what strategy you use, I can come up with a compromise that's going to make that strategy the crux behind how it was compromised.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all trade-offs, right? Like
right.
Everything is trade-offs.
Not to mention the fact that now, how are you going to pass the cost of not only the licensing cost, but the training, the supporting, the managing, and there's components of these products that if you're not careful, they don't like each other.
Well, that was the part that
you gotta pick your horse.
I'm waiting for the guys that got breached through the Kaseya one to breathe and recover from it. And then I'd like to ask them, okay, for those of you that had cyber insurance, how much of your costs did the cyber insurance pay for? Because there was one account I read where the guy had his whole team, himself included, working 18-hour days, sleeping 6 hours at the office, and then getting right after it again. And they did that for 10 days straight.
On CNN last night, by the way, Mike.
What's that?
Justice is his name.
Okay.
They got a 4-minute story on CNN, the recovery. There was an attack in a small Midwestern town through his Kaseya RMM, and they talked about it. He is at least going to get exposure that none of us is going to get, which is nice.
So like for that guy, is his insurance going to pick up all the overtime for his staff if he had to bring in hired guns from other places? Is that covered under his insurance, or does that go back to the insurance policy of the client? Because they effectively were the ones that were breached too.
Yeah.
Right. And
those are all the questions I'd like to see him. What's that?
How about the vendor themselves? I mean, where is the responsibility with that vendor? Where is the line drawn as far as how much they're going to help and help in absorbing the cost of the disaster, right? Because I mean, I don't know what Kaseya is currently doing. Does anybody have any insight with anybody that was breached? Like what Kaseya did for them?
Yeah.
Like, did they? Okay.
Well, if we go back a few months to SolarWinds, since I'm on Essential, that's a SolarWinds product. They gave me 25 licenses of EDR for 30 days or something like that. And then there was like a little screw up, and before the trial was about to end, they sent me an invoice for it. And I had a discussion with my account manager on that. But if you look at the big picture, SolarWinds stock it like dipped a little bit, but it's back up. It was a blip. That's the part that's a little unnerving.
Yeah, but if I recall correctly, the solar winds didn't have as much of an interruption of service.
No, the
Right.
firms that were affected, it was a really targeted attack.
Right.
So all the MSPs and Central Software had nothing to do with it. None of those products were affected. So I didn't have a single client that was breached because of that or anything like that.
Right.
So the 25 EDR licenses, that was just like a little publicity thing. And
Oh, absolutely.
oh, okay.
But I guess
I
what I'm
want to
saying, though,
just-
is that the solar wind attack was less sexy from an investor standpoint, because it wasn't, companies are down, there's encryption, there's all that kind of fun stuff going on.
Right.
So from an investor standpoint, I would give odds with no knowledge whatsoever. But I would give odds that the attention span would be different. Actually, Sophos did an interesting graphic that they shared in the Facebook that I'm going to try to share.
If I could just throw one thing in, which is, it's way back in the conversation, I just am slow. Since we have a help desk and those contracts in place, having that emergency support that Mike started the conversation talking about is kind of in place with someone that has an alternate remote access and knows our customers, and it's not my competitor.
Is it freaking anybody out that Keith is talking, but he doesn't appear to be alive?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just wrote.
Is today special?
Wow, good point. Thank you. Nope, that did it.
There it did it. Yeah.
There's
So
Clear.
yeah. So that's just something, if you have a help desk in effect, and most of them have project departments and all that. So all that's kind of set up. Like if I needed one today, I could just start saying, you already know my client, you have all my username, passwords, you share my IT glue, you're never going to steal my customers, and just go to work.
How many
Yeah, but
hours a week or a month is that person working for you now?
Well, first of all, it's just a help desk. So they're answering first level help desk calls because we just don't want to do that. But on the project work or the we already have a contract in place, which is hourly or by project. It's all in place. So
I just have a conversation. Is that IT by design by any chance?
No.
Okay.
But the problem I think we might have is we need, in some of these cases, we need feet on the street, right? We need people in that market to be able to jump into those locations, right? So it's,
Right.
a remote help desk. I completely
They
get
have a contract with the company. I think it's called OnPage. I forgot the name of them, that we can actually go through them to get feet on the street. I thought it was called something like
that would allow you to
OnPage.
scale, right? I mean, that would allow you to scale to a point where, you can, almost like a good old burstable on-force.
Yeah, that was so we paid a setup fee, but not a monthly fee. So they're all like on call.
Okay.
But we don't pay if they haven't done anything for a year or two since we signed the contract. But we did the setup. They're on call, and we get a verification that they still have access to all our stuff.
One thing, and Talon, if you could make note of this for something that we should do, is find out from the various vendors, especially RMM vendors, most specifically, if there were a Kaseya-like scenario that were to occur with any of the RMM vendors, or really, any specific vendor, what, I guess,
Oh, you muted.
in those disasters. Right? So, what their RMM will do if they are for a major disaster like this, because if you don't know, we need to find out. And I don't believe
You keep losing it, Dan.
Dan, what's going on? Blink if you're safe.
Kaseya
You're safe? All right, he's safe.
So
one of the things I was thinking of, like after this whole solar winds and now Kaseya thing, what do you think about these RMM guys putting in like a panic button that you hit it and it just uninstalls agents everywhere.
Well, what about, we were saying that we wouldn't want to have two RMMs running, but, what if we have that panic button that, installs a secondary agent? Maybe there's an opportunity for an RMM vendor to be a backup RMM provider, much like having, like a backup internet. You're paying a fee, but hopefully a much lower fee, just having the ability to deploy that when needed. I don't know. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
if you use Datto and you upgraded your splash top, not that I'm selling any one product, it may be true in other products. And so if I were to shut down Datto or lose Datto or whatever, I can still use my splash top SOS panel. And it was the same thing when we had Continuum with Log Me In. You paid to go up that next level of Log Me In. So
Right.
you could shut down Continuum and still have Log Me In access without the connection. I don't know about other ones. It may be true with other ones as well.
I'm very curious, like maybe I don't understand, maybe I misunderstand what the impact would be, but I'm under the impression that with this Kaseya example, it came in through an MSP, went to multiple clients of the MSP and ransomed their environment. Now, if I understand correctly, my expectation is that not only, so basically it makes the business that is your client, the compromised MSP's client, inoperable, which would be like an all hands on deck type issue. And I would think, just from my own experience in the past, anytime you got a situation like that, they want you like standing in front of them. They want you on the phone, like with a war room set up, conference bridge, whatever, until it's solved. If you're a 5-person shop and you have 10 companies, how do you deal with that when 8 of the companies are experiencing that? Right? Like, I don't understand. Does anybody have any insight into how that's being addressed? Because I feel like we're talking about it in a way that would be very annoying for us, but I feel like sort of diminishes to some degree the pressure that I assume that would be being put on us by the clients, that like they want one-on-one, like they want one of our humans with them walking them through this thing until it's done.
Right. And like
Right?
with everything else, it's all about communication and running tabletop exercises internally, and then going to your clients and say, this is what we're doing internally when a breach happens, and here's how we're going to work with you. I've worked with you to identify all your critical infrastructure, what needs to come up first. And we're going to try to work with everybody, if this were to happen, to get all your critical stuff up and running first. And here's your responsibilities. Here's our responsibilities. And we clearly outline it. And is that an easy thing to do and get done? No, but it's something that has to be done. Right. And that's
there's
where
stuff you could do ahead of time. Like you could set up an email distribution group outside of your PSA, so that if you had to communicate via email with all your business points to contacts, you would have the list ready, and then if that day came, you could just put the list and hit send, and that part would be taken care of.
And it should be done in a way that is automated. So, the whole synchronization of those contacts, that could be sent via email versus through the PSA. Going back to what Bob's saying is, the whole heart attack thing. You don't wait. Bob, what was you guys know what I mean?
Worst time to do CPR is when someone's having a heart attack.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So in those cases, you just need to have that in place. So when it does happen, you can just literally flip a switch and get an email communication out to everybody. Right. You don't want to have to say, okay, we have this list, but we're going to have to go through and make sure that any former clients are out of there and any new clients get added in. But it all must be an automated process, or as close to automated as possible, so you don't miss a beat when disaster strikes, because we can't control what will happen, like this type of ransomware scenario. But what it comes down to is our ability to react when that situation happens, right? You know, we don't want our clients, you know, keep calling us saying, hey, when are you going to let us know more information? And you're sitting there trying to figure out who needs to get emails. You know, everything should be as ready to roll as quick as possible.
And practiced.
Yeah. I could tell you, I learned from 12-2, because we had crisis managers and people that are professional at this. They actually use the center's, what do you call it? The broadcast email. I forgot the one they use. Anyway, Constant Contact or one of them. And they said, commandeer that and use that to send out triggered updates. And they actually, in that exercise, taught me the importance of communication. And it was so important, by the way, and it's something we brag about. The Inland Regional Center didn't get sued. The County of San Bernardino, who didn't have the same communication and wasn't so forward, is being sued for billions of dollars. So that communication piece, and that just kind of opening the kimono and telling people what's really going on from the beginning, really helped in mitigating damages. And you can't be everywhere at one place. Someone brought that up. I go, I get that. Someone's going to say, well, you think your other customers are more important than me. And that's going to be a problem. So they used the marketing Constant Contact they had set up, focused it on in the groups that were set up, and that's how they distributed informational flyers that were, by the way, done by marketing, not by techies.
And some of it gets back to the whole what's the nature of the emergency. I mean, if it's for example, if it's a major 365 outage, well, then sending emails to everybody at their 365 addresses will be entertaining at best. So having their email, but it gets back to what Kevin was saying, it's communication, it's planning and all that. And also use metaphors. So for example, if there is a significant fire that's happening in a large area, the fire department the first responders cannot get to all of the victims. They have to prioritize, they have to triage, they have to do whatever.
Oh, this is Kevin.
Similar thing the similar action would be here. So you can set some expectations and here's the best way to communicate with us in the case of this, whatever. It's up to you whether you want to actually raise that to have some kind of, pre-event. Hey, in case this happens, and actually might not be a bad idea to offer to do a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting that says, hey, I know everybody, all of our clients have been wondered or concerned about this. So we're going to have a meeting next Tuesday at 2:00, an online meeting where we're going to discuss what we're doing and how we're doing it. That might not be a bad thing to do as a PR thing, to do that just for a client.
Right.
It might be a good idea to put out resources that could help us put together this type of plan.
Right.
Because it sounds like people all over the place and everyone's doing their own individual thing. I, for one, probably wouldn't be able to put together a plan that's going to cover everything that needs to cover.
But you can't. Nobody can. And this is, Norm, this is where I think a lot of us get caught up. And we have to have this perfect plan. You don't, I don't care how big or how small any of us are. We don't have that ability. But if we set expectation, is to basically say, in case there is a huge outage, we're going to handle things as best we can, but it's going to be rough. Here's just a couple of hints. And you could probably just do some Google searching to find some stuff on that.
And if you're planning,
expectation is definitely key.
Go ahead, Carter.
I was just going to say, managing expectations is definitely the key. Yeah. I mean, for sure. If you don't want to get sued or you just want happy customers, manage the expectations to what you are going to deliver.
Yep. Yeah, this is great discussion, you guys. I think I think it raises a lot of areas that we definitely need to address. And Talon, I've made a note, but I'll try to put together some see if we can get some time where we can get a few of us on a call and we could just start working on a plan that would cover some of these things. And, we can take a look more at that next week. And
I got to think there's a lot of overlap between what all of us need to do for our clients.
right. And if the plan can cover, 70, 80% of the scenario, that is going to go so much further with the client, especially if, like you guys were saying, is managing expectations. That will go so much further with the client than if your plan is at the top of your head and it's like 5%, right? So it may not be 100, but it's not going to be 0.
It'd be interesting, Dan, since the Jay McBain article and the prestige of your group is really come back and write a request to all the RMMs. So far, all I'm seeing, and I don't stay as abreast as many of you, is RMMs releasing reasons why they're more secure than Kaseya was. And that's what I'm kind of seeing is in a polite way. No one's actually saying, but they're basically saying we're secure because we do this. And I'm going like,
ConnectWise sent out a message like that just this morning.
Yeah,
so
I've been reading it.
What I'd like to see, and maybe we can push for it, is the RMM saying, let's work with our MSP community on a proactive response plan that's in effect. Here's the resources we'll present as, name it, ConnectWise, Datto, I don't know the names of all of them. Here's what we're expecting you guys to do. And let's develop some communication templates long before the incident.
Unfortunately, fortunately, it's like a hot potato. I think everyone wants to not have to hold it for too long and be away from it.
Yeah,
that's the way I see
it. I think if we could pull all those together, those channel leaders together at those organizations, and start some dialogue with them and say, as a community, from a co-opetition perspective, let's work together to put some kind of plan in place, even though it might not be 100% that could drop into every organization. It would be way better than nothing. So Taylor, go ahead and add that to the list as well. So very good discussion, you guys. I've got to jump. Does anybody have anything to add before we drop off? Taylor just put in a link about another webinar we've got coming up. So take a look at that. And Mike, was good to see you as well. Sometimes you need to recharge and get away. So that's always a good thing.
Took a couple days off and then hired someone. So I've been doing the new user training.
Oh, nice.
Dan, can we get a copy? Like, I'd love to get a copy of today's conversation.
Yeah.
I know you always record.
Yep. I've got it recorded. And are you talking about like a transcript of today's conversation?
No, just like, I know that Zoom allows, like, it does the little thing at the end. Like, could you put it up on the cloud or something and let us review it or download it or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. You mean the video or?
Yeah, just today. Yeah, today's video again.
Yep. I'll Taylor, if you could do that, because I did not go live on Facebook because I'm working from my phone right now. So Taylor, if you she's got it. Perfect. So she'll get that link out there so that we can get that shared, and maybe that will also spark some additional thoughts and ideas from others.
Yeah,
thank you.
Dan, I'll be in ASCII in Chicago on next Wednesday, the ASCII in Chicago. And if I get a break and an ability to do it, I might join from that event. I might have some downtime. I'm going to be doing headshots there, and I don't expect it to be busy. But I might, talk about some of the stuff that's going on. If not Friday, before I fly back, I'll join and talk about what happened there.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I planned to go to Chicago just because it's just a 3-hour drive around the lake. But I have surgery next week, Wednesday. So I won't be able to zip down there, unfortunately. So.
Too bad. Okay.
All right, everybody. Have a great weekend, recharge, and look out for ransomware. Everybody have a great weekend. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.